Detroit, 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 Detroit is different. Detroit is different. Detroit, Detroit, different. Detroit is different. Detroit is different.
Welcome back to the Detroit is Different podcast studios. And in studio, I got a brother that I actually met that's like from this great state, but it took New Orleans for us to connect, right? So you like, what are you doing in New Orleans? Right? I was in New Orleans because it was a Brothers Backing Brothers group convened by, shout out to Dr. Raquel Hatter of Kresge Human Centered Works, where I'm still surprised that she was like, I'm gonna support what you're doing, because I was like, well, this is what I think about philanthropy, and that's what I think about philanthropy. Y'all know me, right? So through it all, she was like, I hear you. But I don't care about all of that. You need to come to this. And when I came to that the whole way through, it just ended up being a couple of sessions, and I'm sitting by this brother the whole time. And the whole time, it's like, I thought I had a whole lot of stuff to do. So I'm like sending my text messages and doing some work. It's like, he's like, all types of like everything and beyond. So he's in the text, he's in the session. He's also like doing, it looked like payroll, it looked like receivables, bank reconciliation and everything. And I was like, oh, this guy is really a CEO.
That's funny.
And I swear to God, I probably am like 5 years older than him. What are you doing? All right. But here nor there.
That's
very connected to community as well. And in these sessions, as things are being said, he's just like pulling me to the side, like, well, I think this, I think that, I think this, I think that. And I was like, yeah, I kind of agree with him, and it's rare that I will ever completely concur, since y'all know I'm moving my mouth all the time. With all of that being said, really coming with communities first, because you think about community, creativity, and culture. That's what we do here at Detroit is Different.
Mm-hmm.
And this brother is doing it more than just in Detroit. It's in Flint. It's in Saginaw. It's a little bit in Lansing, and even stretching to good old Gary, Indiana.
Oh, yeah.
So with that being said, Glenn Wilson, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks a lot for having Kara. That's hilarious. Like, it's funny, like when you talk about with us connecting, and you said you don't normally concur. I didn't know this about you until we started talking. And then after we talked a little bit more, I was like, oh yeah, man, I'm surprised he agreed with what I said.
Hilarious.
Because I'm like, Kara got an opinion. I love it.
Yes.
So yeah, no, it was all good, man. But what's crazy, man? It just shows like if people really talk about what they really mean. You know what I mean? It's just organic, right? It ain't forcing, because you didn't know, like we knew about each other, but we ain't know each other. You know what I mean? And so that was like that organic connection. I'm so glad that Dr. Hatter has set that up. And we were just able to just organically connect. That was real, man. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, it felt like and a lot of great brothers, like it felt like that was one of those experiences where like the teacher, you're like the kid that usually doesn't get invited to like the academic games field trip, and then it's like, yeah, go on, it's an extra seat on the bus, and I believe in you because you did 2 good assignments this year. Now nothing wrong.
Right.
And it's like, all right. I was that kid on the field trip.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You know, it's always about like the, a seat at the table. Sometimes I always tell people, it's like, we always get so concerned about not getting invited to the table and not appreciating the ones we already at and the ones we can create.
Yeah, most definitely. A lot of great theories, a lot of good connections, and also really the root of that about Black men in leadership positions doing work in communities, being supported by Black women. And what does that look like? How do we engage? How do we not necessarily keep this hyper focus? My recent interview with Council Member James Tate, shout out to James Tate. We really were speaking about from his Protect Your Crown Act of just the pressures we as men already feel. And this is breaking some of that because it's a lot in us, Men are, y'all know, especially women, y'all know the egos we got and just all we come with, that energy, especially Black man energy. So looking to connect in that setting was so unique. And the whole time it's like we're engaged. I'm on the bus, like going. It was interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, we'll say that. Absolutely.
So at that, I know a little bit about your backstory. So some of these questions I gotta ask just so the people get in the
Yeah,
audience.
absolutely.
But I can like really look to this where I'm like, wow, this is a testimony of so much in faith. But I know your roots are not necessarily here in Detroit.
Right.
You are in what we call the country cousin city.
Oh,
I'm just
wow.
messing with you.
Wow.
I'm just messing with you.
Man.
I'm just messing with you.
People already picking on F-L-I-N-T, Flint town.
Hey, no. I'm one of the biggest Flint fans.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
But you're from Flint. What was growing up in Flint like for you?
I mean, Flint, man, it was growing up. I mean, as a kid, grew up in the city, went to public schools. I just remember, man, always hanging out with my friends, doing things, hanging on the blocks, playing curve. I don't know if people even remember what curve was,
Oh, man, are you talking about curveball?
Yes,
Oh,
curve
man.
ball. You know what I'm talking about, man. Or the hoop with the milk crate, what I'm saying? Like, just that, man. Just humble humble kids, man. But, I had a situation in my life, man, that changed my life early. We had a house fire when I was a kid, man, 7 years old. Lost my brother, my sister, and my cousin in a house fire. I was the only one to get out that house fire alive, man. And so, having that traumatic experience as a kid, watching my parents, they went through a divorce. I mean, so many different things, man. My life has been where statistically, I shouldn't probably be sitting here with you today, man. I should probably be behind some jail cells somewhere statistically, as a black man. But when you talk about faith, man, I'm fortunate, man, to, have, a praying mother, even though my mother just passed away last year.
Wow, condolences.
Appreciate that. Had a praying mother, some people in my life, man, that tried to be a support to me growing up. And some of these people are from Detroit, man. And, it's even though I'm not from here, I've been blessed by people from Detroit, all my life. And growing up, man. So I've been back and forth from the city of Detroit, man, ever since I was a kid, man, going back and forth.
And the reality is everybody in Detroit got family in Flint. Y'all already know.
Flint was really the town that was getting it. You know what I mean? At first, if everybody just want to go back to
man.
and then GM had to leave Flint, and then they came to Detroit, and then, then Detroit blew up, and then it just kept going from there.
So definitely, we will definitely have discussions about that history. I'm just messing with you, but hey, I mess with it. We all got family.
Oh yeah,
It's a relationship. As Ken Elkins, shout out to Ken Elkins. It's like a lot of people in Flint, Saginaw. I call it like the town over type theory. You know what I'm saying?
That 75 corridor, man. Everybody didn't travel it, man.
Yeah,
and I think there are so many people that think that our cities are so different. And honestly, they're not, man. It's same people, different city, different players, but the whole world operates the same in certain aspects. Man.
Very, very much so. So many people, like one of the people where it's like, wow, you doing all this stuff. Shout out to Jonathan Corals, one of those Flint guys. Great story. Detroit is different. Check the archives of it. There's so many other people that I know that really have impacted Detroit culture, Detroit politics, Detroit community. And you're in that space now. And before we even really kind of get to that, just moving, after experiencing something like a house fire, and now you kind of work in that space, you are in the space of providing people that structure, that stability of what a home is. What was housing like for you after that fire? How did you look at home? How did you look at
man,
that?
I didn't have one, man, for a minute. We were staying out of a hotel, man. I remember working with our local Red Cross. When I say working, I mean, it was with my parents, man. We was living out of the, what hotel? It was the Ramada. We was in the Ramada hotel that was off Pearson Road, man. And we stayed there for almost a year and a half, man, trying to wait till we could find a home. So I was homeless, man. So I had that whole experience. A lot of people tell me, they said, man, you had to have a good time because you had a swimming pool and all that stuff. But man, we couldn't sit down and have Sunday dinner. We always eating out, unless I went over to my grandmother's house or something like that. But like just having that experience, man, or just having that place to lay your head down, so I've had that experience, man, of being homeless and waiting for your family to find that place to live, to call home. And I remember, man, when they finally found a house and we moved into it. I mean, that was a remarkable situation for me as a young person. And just remembering that feeling, and even just now, being in that space of providing homes to individuals that may have not had access to them. Because I've been without, and that wasn't just the only situation. My parent, even with that same home, got caught up in the foreclosure crisis, and end up foreclosing on that home. And I remember those situations and watching my mom go through that whole thing with foreclosure. After I know that was the home we had moved into after. After the house fire, and so I mean, I've experienced it, man. I've seen it happen. I've seen people, for banking practices. I've seen different things happen at different times. So not only am I a person that's advocating out here, but I've actually experienced it.
So in those experiences, it's been uplifted also the housing instability that it has even on a child's development and just focus in school. As shout out to Angelique Power of Skillman highlighted some of this, and Ken Elkins even spoke a little bit of this.
Yeah.
Where's your focus at as a kid experiencing something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I had some great principals, I can say that, that really cared about me as a child. And I can't say everybody would have that. I had some extra help. One thing I give kudos to is me getting into counseling as a child. A lot of parents would see that as taboo. People don't want to get their kids help. I had two Black doctors. It was Dr. Laverne McGowan and Dr. Roderick Smith. And I remember those two doctors that worked with me, as a child. I had some other things, I was diagnosed as a kid with ADHD because just so many things was happening in my life. So when you were talking about that, I mean, that instability of housing, how that impacts, I mean, it's very hard to focus as a child when you just going back, to a hotel, and you don't have a desk to just sit at and do your homework, sitting at the dinner table. I think sometimes people take that stuff for granted. The very thing, I tell people this often, but the very things that we take for granted are the very things that people pray for. So I always just understand that in my life. And as I walk, is to understand the humility of, and the empathy of appreciating the very things that we find little or very big in other people's lives.
See, as I said, the brother has a story, and shout out to Dr. Smith, Dr. McGowan. How did you navigate that as a child? You say that was helpful for you.
Absolutely.
To just begin to open up as even at a young age. Sometimes if things aren't uplifted,
yeah,
you just don't know who to trust to open up to.
Yeah, I tell people all the time is find that mental health professional that for your children. Like because as adults, sometimes we feel like when we're experiencing trauma, we feel like our kids aren't experiencing that with us. And we think just because we're taking care of the kids, they eating, they okay. But they see their parents. Like I seen my parents go through trauma. You know what I'm saying? I seen them struggling. I heard them at night crying. Those things don't just go away because you're trying to figure out, is there something that I can do as a kid to try to help? So for me, man, I was trying to grow up fast, which I did. When I say I grew up fast, it was like I just wanted to be that helper to try to help solve something, to make life easier on my parents as I got older. So, for me, it was just like, what can I do to hustle and grind and make money? Let me go do this, and when I say grind, I ain't saying I was doing anything wrong, but I was just trying to do whatever I needed to do to try to bring in some type of support to my family. But the one good thing that you were talking about with the doctors, I mean, having that counselor, having that doctor, especially two Black doctors at that time, that was unheard of. So to even have both of those was an awesome experience for me. So I tell people all the time, like mental health is not a bad thing to get help with. And it also makes me appreciate, I mean, I have counselors that I talk to now, right? And some are coaches and however people want to call them. You should always have somebody that you can talk to, open up your mind, right? Relieve those deep thoughts, those things that's in your heart that you don't know if you really want to say out loud. And sometimes you find out it's okay to get that stuff out. And sometimes what you said to somebody, you realize how crazy it is. You realize how crazy it is when you say it out loud to somebody else. You help solve your problem. So I always tell people, man, don't be afraid to get that mental health help. So I'm always a component of, it's not taboo. Is health and good for the soul. It's health and good for the soul.
All right. So that's that space there.
Yeah.
Right now, you're running an organization that's housing thousands of people.
Mm-hmm.
How do you even get on that trajectory from that path at Flint? Because already, like, let's just say the natural path you would expect for young Black man without experiencing some of the traumas you experienced. It usually just doesn't, the trajectory is not that line in that
Right.
path, period.
Right.
So where do you begin to start crystallizing this path that you've been on now?
Yeah, the path that I'm on now, I mean, I've always been a serial entrepreneur most of my life. You know, I had a limousine company that used to bring me to Detroit a lot. And then I used to be in the healthcare business. I was a partner in the healthcare group. And so we did like physical therapy, occupational therapy. And what happened was I've always been in service, right?
Mhm.
Service to people and individuals. Any industry that I've been in is always trying to figure out how do I be a service to individuals. And so actually, while I was out visiting some clients with one of my nurses one day, I saw some seniors and how they were living. And I said, man, it was like roaches in the hallway. It was the certain things wasn't working. Like it was paint chipping. I was like, man, people really living like this, right? And not that I wasn't being empathetic, saying at least they got a place to stay, but I was like, man, something can be better. Something needs to be different. So I really started doing some more research, trying to understand what type of housing can be done. And at this time, I was doing very well with my company. I didn't really have no reason to leave. I mean, when I say leave, I'm talking about sell. I didn't have any point to sell. Like I was just comfortable. But I started praying about it. When you talk about faith, it was one of those things at that moment of like, okay, what should I be doing? So I started going to actually talk to other nonprofit groups across my city. Started talking to some across the state, just asking them about, you know, hey, how can I, and in my city, I was like, how can I help? So I actually went to these different nonprofits and said, hey, how can I help? Is there something I can do? Is anybody, and it was like, hey, ain't nobody touching this right now. Nobody's building multifamily housing. City of Flint, this is what they told me. City of Flint is just not doing what you're talking about doing. There's nobody that's really leading that effort. And the groups that people were sending me to talk to, I was going to talk to them. They was like, no. And I was like, dang, like I'm trying to help. Like I'm not even at this point even trying to do this. So at this time I was talking to my friend, which is now my co-founder, my wife, Essence. Kudos to her as well. But at this time we just friends, and I was telling her about this idea, and I said, you know what? I keep talking to people. I'm trying to either write people checks, trying to be help, trying to serve on boards. Nobody wants to do this work. And so after praying about it, it was like, man, when they say if not them, you know, then who? If not you, then who? Like, so that thing kind of came to me, and then I actually went and read some stories back when I was a kid, and saw and just thought about the housing aspect, and I'm like, you know what? Okay, God, I think this is you speaking to me.
Wow.
And I said, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and try this out. And at that time, I talked to my partners. You know, they bought me out, and we was like, okay, let's see what can happen over the next 3 years. And I just like any business, I said, if it ain't successful in 3 years, you know, I'm done with it. And here we are this year, 15 years old.
Wow.
You know, organization still growing and thriving, and you know, serving, you know, 2 states, and we serve about 40,000 people a year with all our programming. And man, it's been a blessing, man. And you couldn't tell me 15 years ago this is where we'd be at now. And the thing is, I don't even think this is like the echelon of where the organization can go and who we are. It's just with all the stories that I have about all the no's, even when I first started the organization, the no's I got, the rejection, and people just was like, hey, good luck, man, you know, clapping me up, you know. So I'm always trying to be conscious to think about other brothers in the space as well. Being a Black man, trying to be in a space that you're not normally in. I mean, I'm one of probably 5 or 6 Black developers. I'm talking about now at like a scale. In the state of Michigan, there's not a lot of either nonprofit or for-profit, right? And so, you know, people thought, you know, my life was a little bit different from other people's life. It's like, no, we had to start this from the ground up, just like any other for-profit or nonprofit did, because, man, Foundations wasn't knocking down our door to give us the money when we got started, you know, and people think, oh, man, just because I started a nonprofit, you know, they're going to be giving me money.
Yeah.
No, that's not the case. So if that's what you think, that is not the case. Just in my city at that time, there was really not a lot of money to be made, so you really had to do it more of a social practice of, hey, social enterprise of giving back, because the gaps in the projects was so large, you had to figure out ways to get them done.
All right. So it's so many points that I'm going to hit on
absolutely.
with
Yeah,
that.
let's go.
But first, let's pin and let's pin where we're at there.
Yeah.
Because you're big into that.
Yeah.
And let's go all the way back to limo driver.
Yeah.
What was that business like? What do you remember? What for the next person that's thinking like, okay, I could try this limo driving. What were the triumphs, and what were some of the what is going on here?
Oh man, you know what, man? It all started, man. There was people. So some people tell you back in college, I kind of did the Uber thing before it was Uber. So kids used to get drunk and they used to drive back and forth between this other college campus. And so I used to, since I didn't drink, I would pick kids and take them back and forth. And then I got a couple other kids to help drive kids back and forth. Now, if I would have knew how to turn this into Uber back then, man, I don't know, we'd be sitting here right now, man. I'd probably be over in San Diego, sitting on the beach.
Yeah.
But because I worked at a funeral home as a kid, I kind of was like, okay, well, let me see if I can turn this into a limo thing. So then I ended up buying a limo in college, and then just kind of started it from there, man, and just kept, picking people up, and then started just doing some runs. And, I was on the football team, man. So that was kind of getting in the way of me playing football like the way I was supposed. When I say getting in the way, I mean, I was still doing it. Just, trying to, get other people to drive for you in college, other college students. That wasn't always the, the best thing.
It's like,
but no,
I'm
man,
to pick up my girlfriend.
Right.
You just gave me a limo. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
Fly. We about to shoot a music video in here.
Yeah, man. So I did that, and then I did a lot of funerals for funeral homes, and that's what else brought me back to Detroit. Company used to work with a couple funeral homes here, Old Man Swanson.
Okay.
At Swanson Funeral Home.
Definitely.
And back in the, this is almost, 17 years. Man, this is just how time go by.
Yeah.
But just, working with different groups like that, a couple other funeral homes as well around the way. And they just used to rent my limos, and I used to come up, on a Saturday and use them. But I had a lot of other people that would use them for, basketball games, football games. I had some pretty big clients at different times. And then eventually I saw kind of the writing on the wall as the world started changing a little bit. People wasn't ordering the stretch limos as much. And so, I said, you know what, man, it might be time to start making a pivot. And then I was also doing some consulting. And then that's kind of how the healthcare thing popped in while I was doing some consulting.
Okay. All right. So now let's pick back up into affordable housing that you speak of.
Yeah.
Because I got a text from you that like, yo, I could talk about this. And I was like, yeah, you definitely could.
Yeah.
So Detroit Next is a project where it's a collaboration between Detroit is Different and Bridge Detroit, where we're covering a lot of the challenges that many of the people running for the municipal election of 2025 is more than mayor. It's also city council and other positions as well. But in this, there are a couple different challenges that are always upraised. Affordable housing is not just a challenge in the city of Detroit. I would say that affordable housing is a challenge for the United States of America.
Big time.
For many reasons. And from sitting and doing public comment and reading Bridge Detroit, and as like what Glenn was saying, like have an opinion on almost a lot of things, but this is a key element in discussion.
Right.
Many factors. If you watch Detroit is Different, I always upraise. During COVID-19, not only did the price of materials like just shoot up across the board for almost everything, definitely building materials, but also a lot of developers and investors into commercial real estate have entered the residential real estate market, changing a lot of the focus that was already tough. Affordable housing is set by area median income. So these are some of the things I'm talking about in New Orleans. Like just, and not even knowing you're ear hustling some of the things that I'm saying from me interacting from a media lens, but less a media lens than just my community lens. And then you hear affordable housing is like $1,750 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment, which in a community like Detroit, will more than likely be a mother and children. And You also know that this is based on that area median income, which here the area median income even stretches into gross point.
Yep.
So
Yep. Which really throws that whole number off, because really the area median income at the current levels in Detroit is really 50% AMI or below. That's true affordability in Detroit.
it's definitely that. And some like a Sonia Mays
Mhm.
and Chase Cantrell may say, like, depending upon neighborhood, that can stretch down to like 70% of just the like what we're dealing with, and
Mhm.
that challenge of kind of definitely, I think, how we're connecting through
Mhm.
Dr. Hatter
Mhm.
and human-centered work of
Right.
the poverty that exists in communities like Detroit and Flint and
Mhm.
Gary, Indiana,
Yep.
Baltimore, and many other places that definitely have a lot of Black folks, but even in a lot of communities that are all white, because affordable housing is becoming more and more of it's definitely a talking point politically,
Mhm.
but the people in the space. And then you flip it and you start talking to developers and you see, like you said, like anybody that's ever been a landlord, it's tough. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? You're possibly making pennies on the dollar if you really go at what's affordable.
Yep.
So working working the balance of what that looks like. How do you build it? How do you get the people to construct this? The skilled trades. It is a science and a testament to the people in this space. And it's not as easy as just throw money at it. It's not as easy as let's just do what they did in this city and do
Yeah.
that over
Yeah.
here.
People try to do that all the time. You're absolutely right. I tell people, man, it's not one size fits all when it comes to affordable housing,
Mhm.
because everybody's needs are uniquely different to their community or their neighborhood.
Mhm.
So you're absolutely right. And if people are not paying attention to that, whereas a lot of your, like you're talking about, some of your private equity, which, I mean, everybody has their place to play, but some of them, they just have a profit margin they trying to hit. So if
Very
it's
much so.
if it's 20%, that's our profit. That's the ROI we're looking for. Then it don't matter where they put it. It's just 20%,
But
right?
I
Whereas,
gotta
yeah,
gotta add this caveat to
yep,
it too,
mm-hmm,
especially in a city like Detroit.
mm-hmm,
A lot of that private equity is used on the backs of the government subsidies that are spent and placed for facing the social challenges
mm-hmm,
of poverty.
mm,
So making it plain.
yeah,
Classic Kari point that I always upraise. This is where race plays a role.
mm-hmm,
Black people are definitely best to face forward when you want to show any challenge of any disparity in life in America,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
So you want to get that Black face, that Black family, this group of Black people to say, this is the problem in America,
mm-hmm,
right? So you use that to advocate for it. You build it up, and then the minute that you got that attention and you got the money and the hearts and minds, not just of the political people, because to get political support, you're getting support of the people in general. Then you say, all right, Black people, now we want you to get to the back.
mm-hmm,
So here in Detroit, a lot of money connected to especially like HUD dollars and HUD funding. So a lot of federal money has went to develop um, housing for throughout the city of Detroit, especially when you talk about those seniors. And they were developed on grants that run out where it's like, okay, you have to have this many units available for this many residents of this age that are facing these challenges for, I don't know, let's say 30 years, right?
yeah,
So a landlord will sit on a property for like, let's say like about 26 and a half years. And then right when that 30-year margin comes, they're going to redevelop it. And now they basically taken federal money to develop these properties.
mm-hmm,
This is executed a whole lot in when people say like, you don't bad mouth the president enough. This is a lot of the stuff that Donald Trump's father did.
mm-hmm,
Definitely his son-in-law Jared Kushner does and his family does. Like these are like very ugly practices of the ways
yeah,
that private equity money is siphoning money from our government on the backs of the thought process of this will help a community, and they'll slum on properties for years
yeah.
and flip them over. I just want to uplift
No,
that.
no, you're fine. I can kind of give some a little
Context to that.
some
Yeah.
context,
There
some
you
light
go.
to it. Yeah, it ain't no problem. But absolutely. I mean, obviously, there's good developers out there in the world, and there's bad developers, right?
Mhm.
And then there's wannabe developers, right? So
Hilarious.
you got all three.
Hilarious.
And so from that perspective, what happens is, you have a project And when you're applying, for tax credits or whatever you're applying for through the state, they're going to give you guidelines. And what happens is when you're trying to get a deal done, it comes down to the capital stack, right? It is how do you fill gaps in projects to make sure that you can get them done?
What's the capital stack? Break that down.
A capital stack is just sources of funds, right? Is if you need equity, you need debt, you need grants, soft funds, you need, like what you were just talking about, tax breaks, whatever you might need. And when I say tax, it might be, a pilot, whatever it might be, that's all in your funding sources, right? So this is everything you need. So what happens is, say a for-profit or say a developer, whoever, come in and say, okay, I got to get this project done. It's 50 units. The 50 units is going to cost me $10 million to build.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it cost me $10 million. My debt and equity only can support $6 million. Okay, so where I'm gonna get the other $4 million from to build the property? So then that's when you start, like what you were talking about, you start looking at some of the subsidies that might be available. And the subsidies are good subsidies. It's just maybe sometimes how they're deployed at the end is not always most beneficial for the people who live there. But what happens is you apply, you fill the gap in the project to get it done. And then, like you say, it depends on who the developer is, because not all are like that. But yeah, sometimes those projects that have a 15 or a 20-year window to say, hey, at the end of this 15, 20, or 30-year window, once those run out, because that's usually what the program has to have some type of sunset, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it sunsets at that point, and then the developer can choose two things. It can either say, one, all right, I'm going to keep it in this program. I'm just going to refinance it, redevelop it, keep the rents low. Or if it has an ability, then they can say, oh, it can come from under the regulatory relief. So once it relieves the regulatory relief, which is either given by the state or the federal government, then it can say, oh, well, now I can charge, instead of $800 a month,
fair market value.
I can charge fair market value.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's happening is you have a lot of the larger firms that have the money, and they'll come to the affordable housing developers and say, hey, you know what? Man, it looked like that property needs some help.
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you $6 million. I'm just throwing out a number, but let me give you some, several $1 million for that property. Then they'll take it, and then they don't have a heart for people. And then they say, hey, I'm sorry, your rent's now going from $800 to $2,000 to fair market value. And then people go, oh man, dang, that's messed up. So that's part of the reason why we start the organization like Communities First, because what we're doing is paying attention to that long-term strategy as an organization, and what I call is a pre-gentrification strategy.
Mm-hmm. And I love that you uplift that,
Yep.
because I'm definitely, yes, and shout out to Sonia Mays for saying this. All developers are not bad.
Yep.
I'm speaking from the
Yep.
stories, how we see it, and
Absolutely.
really more so how it impacts communities like mine.
Yep.
It was a very known series of apartment buildings where now so many seniors have been ousted from places where they've lived for years.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
In this changeover.
Mhm.
And the challenge was some of these same developers, in boosting those rates, were asking for more of the considerations of HUD funding and block grants from the city of Detroit. This was a big story during the Duggan administration. You all can Google it, and you all can see, and you all probably have seen some of these transitions and changeovers. I mean, you can kind of feel it. Like if you drive around Little Caesars Arena, what was always known in most of my lifetime is like, okay, these are where some senior living places are and everything like that. It ain't like that no more, you know? And a lot of those transitions happen, and some of these same developers have also been able to connect and get more funding in partnership with some of that in their capital stack. I love that you add that. I'm gonna start speaking in that language.
No,
now.
it's all good. I mean, because I think what happens is people don't really think about it from when I always say pre-gentrification, it's what are we looking at in the long term and what's going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we got to be more intentional thinking about the long term versus the short term, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you're saying, which happens, is that preservation. So I'll give you an example. Preservation is another category of affordable housing that some people don't talk about. They always talk about new construction. But what you're talking about is the preservation side, which is very huge. You have millions of units that will be coming out of regulatory relief over the next few years in the United States of America. So when you start talking about millions of units coming out of regulatory relief, that means that's millions of units now that private equity or different developers can come by and now change to fair market value rents on some of these places, because some of them have extended use, so you can't do it with all of them. But there is a process that you could take a development through called a qualified contract, which allows you to put the market, the value at a qualified contract amount and get like an appraisal and try to see if you can, like, there's ways to try to get properties out. However, the goal is to make sure that developers are doing the extended use period on developments. That means they're carrying it past the 30 years, they're carrying it to 45 years, and making sure that that stuff is being incentivized. And then making sure that you're supporting the developers and making sure that they're getting the incentives, the people that are really thinking about the people that are here.
And it's tough. So looking at it, because right now I'm definitely speaking from that community first lens. I'm speaking from the resident perspective.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
And we're going to flip it and we're going to go to the business perspective in a second. But I want to sit here just for a couple more points because you're giving me a lot more information that now is helping. You all are watching the thought process grow right now. So the other challenge that happens with this is in a city like Detroit, similar to other cities like Flint and Gary, Indiana, but just like any cities that people say the Rust Belt, but I'm going to just say Big Ten nation, right?
Yeah.
These are places that were definitely strong in the industrial lens that were for so long very much spaces of home ownership.
Yeah. Cleveland. Yeah, I mean, you right. You name it, all around the Rust Belt is very similar.
Big Ten country, even Pennsylvania.
Yep.
And now these places that have anchored themselves as like you want to own a home, part of that American dream, are transitioning more so to renter spaces. And now these discussions expand even more so because as these discussions expand even more so, places like Detroit, we just had our first renters commission meeting like 2 months ago. So that means that because there was just so many homeowners here, was no reason really to have that renters commission for the city of Detroit. And renters' rights, it's not like California where it's like renters' rights are like,
it's a thing.
You talk to somebody that owns property in California, they trying to make me go broke. But like here, like it's not the same. So like right to renew, that's one of those big things that a lot of people advocate for if you are a renter. So if you're a homeowner, you don't know what it is. Right to renew a lease.
Right.
That's not necessarily what's pressing. That's a piece of legislation that's sitting in Detroit City Council now. What will happen? How will it move forward? These are all different things to like take into account as also because America has changed and the idea of home ownership is not going to be as abundant moving forward for as many families.
Right. Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, when you're talking about home ownership is important. I tell people you got to build just as much home ownership as you do rental. It's not one or the other. I don't know why some people think about this or like we need to do home ownership or we need to build more multifamily rental. You need them both because you need places for people that are growing up, the people that are growing up in the ladder of income to be able to have what they consider might be the American dream, which is owning a home. And then those individuals that might say, hey, I don't want to own a home, but having access for them to be able to rent something, right? And then individuals that could be homeless or people that don't have access and can't, or might not just be homeless, but people that's disabled that can't take care of a home, right? So the goal is we have to have them both. And we have to make sure that we're giving equal precedence, I would say, to both opportunities. I don't think it's an or a zero sum. And so when you were talking about having that aspect of people having home ownership, like that is an important thing. Like we have residents that's lived in our apartments that we've worked with them, got them financial literacy, got them resources, helped them get their down payment assistance and help transition them into home ownership. But one of the biggest things that we're having right now, and as you know, Kari, home ownership now has got way more expensive.
Back to like I say, the people that were in corporate,
right.
So in residential,
right. So when you even talking about the people that's here in the city of Detroit, is them same people that was like, hey, I'm giving up my house, I'm walking away because it ain't worth nothing. right? Those same houses here in the city of Detroit, just like in the city of Flint. I mean, there are some properties that we were looking at in the city of Detroit, 10, 12 years ago that was, $60,000, $70,000, right? Them same properties are $400,000 or $500,000, $500,000, right? And so you have those where I think sometimes even as a community, we give up on our own community too quick, right? Because we think it's not going to be worth anything. So we just kind of just let it go because we don't value it as other people might value it. And sometimes we just got to be patient. We got to play the long game instead of that short game.
And in that long game and short game, this may be my last housing-ish question. Then we're going to flip it to that developer lens. It's tough because the other part of like the upkeep. So how, property values go up. That's something definitely that the mayor touts. Even a lot of people, part of city government, love that. But it's not like an actualized gain unless I sell it. If anything, now it's like my taxes going to be more. As all these costs go up, just upkeep of a house costs more. How do you think people can navigate these spaces? Like even like, I mean, just random house stuff. Some birds have made a nest inside the paneling on top of the roof.
Right.
So it's like, what?
Well, I know they got the Detroit Home Network here, right? That you can work with. There's other groups like You Snap Back. You can get, different homeowner rehab programs that are available through your banks that sometimes people don't even know about, right? That's available through MSHA. Also, the Federal Home Loan Bank has things that they partner with other banks to provide additional funding to help people. And then the mayor did come out with several programs, but the one with the roof repairs, to get the roofs done for people. So I think it's really just making sure that you're getting connected. You can call us, you can call our office or get in contact with us if you need to be connected to some additional resources, because there's a lot out there, right? But the problem is just because something is available doesn't mean it's accessible, right?
And that I was going to say, because even I remember specifically about the roof repairs and porch repairs for seniors, that group was running into some of the same problems a lot of the regular developers I know as prices continue to rise for the materials and goods and also the labor in this space.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I say, just because something is readily, and I think sometimes people get lost in just saying, hey, we got this program that's available, but don't nobody know how to navigate it, right? Because it's like, oh, you need my income. Well, I need to give you my income to prove this. And it's like, well, you need to give me your income so then I can know you can't afford the house. Well, I don't want to show you my income, right? So it's like having that balance when you talk about individuals about, hey, do you want the roof or do you not want the roof, right? Like you literally have to ask yourself, and am I willing to do what I need to do to get it done? And if I don't like the parameters of that program, either one, that's what you need to get with groups and either try to do a policy change, right? And say, hey, can this policy change? And if you find out it's a regulatory thing that they just have to do, then you have to make that decision of, hey, I'm going to go through this process and I'm going to do it and get with the people that's going to help me get it done. Or I'm just not going to do it and move out the way and let the next person do it. And hopefully something else comes to me.
Okay, so now let's flip it on the side. Yeah. We're kind of in that space right now already. Yeah. For developers, as tough as it is, it's so interesting because shout out to Solidarity and, their work and everything. So absolutely. DTE is always approaching the Michigan Public Service Commission saying that cost of everything is going up, so we need to raise our rates. So it's like, well, the cost ain't just going up for you, DTE. Obviously, it's going up for the people that's paying for the service too. So I'm reversing it for you all. So if it's tougher to navigate me getting this bird nest out the side of my house for me, clearly for a developer, roofs, wood, nails, work.
I'll give you one word: insurance. Insurance right now, just because of the market, the unconventional weather patterns that's been happening right now across the world. Insurance right now has increased for everyone between 40 and 60% across the board. So we've had affordable housing. So I'll give you an example. Right here in the city of Detroit, we had an affordable housing development that we own, like 32 units, smaller development. Our insurance on that property has been consistently around $12,000, $12,000 to $14,000 a year. Last year, we got a premium increase to $27,000. Maybe I've only filed maybe 2 claims in 5 years. And when I say claim, I'm talking about these are small, like something happened with weather and the roof, messed up. Like this is something that's like everyday act of God things that are happening. but we increase by that much in insurance. Guess what? When you have a regulatory restraint, I can't raise the rents and make the tenants pay for it. Right. So then there are things that have to happen that you either have to, one, you have to adjust on your side to say, what can I do to bring the cost down on this overall property? So maybe instead of me getting the grass cut every 2 weeks, I got to do it every week. So sometimes people do have to be conscious of what the developer does experience, because those are things that are totally out of our control, right? That's a collective problem. And the reason why I use insurance, because I know that's something that all developers are struggling with right now. But like you're talking about, though, is, who pays for when the roof breaks? I think that's also having a good team doing preventative maintenance. Property management, man, is one of the most important items that you can have in working with a successful property management team who gets it, who understands people, and that don't because a lot of people do, they just kick the can down the road. A lot of property managers is like, oh, I ain't worried about that right now. We'll take care of that later. So like a $500 problem become a $5,000 problem, and it's like, oh, let's take care of it then. And so that's part of the reason why we brought property management in house, just ourselves as an organization. At first, we weren't going to do it, but then we said, you know what? In order for us to really dial in on these properties and make sure we meet the community needs and listening to the people, they need to be talking to us directly.
Now, property management is definitely one of those things that's like the wild, wild west here in the city of Detroit. Because, boy, the way that I see the three-card money play with a lot of these properties, just from the people I know that's really doing some caretaking for my auntie, and just trying to navigate. It's almost like every day it's a new property management company I walk in there just for some of the same problems. And you got to just like reestablish and have the same email. And it's like, okay, I was talking to Sally 2 months ago. Now I'm talking to Susie. And then you say, and then Susie's like, I'll help you. And then the next time you talking to Stacy, and it's like, this is confusing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, property management is very important. And to make sure, I mean, any developer can tell you that's another thing. That's is having quality property management people that's being attentive to not only the community, but being attentive to the property needs as well. Because if you're not doing them both, something's gonna give, right? So, because sometimes you're walking the property and it's beautiful, right? Everything looks nice, it's clean, but the tenants are disgruntled. There's something else going on. You don't know what's going on. Somebody could be, kids, throwing stuff off the balcony, being destructive. So it's like trying to have that balance. So I tell people, like, if you at a property and your manager is like 85, 90% there, man, you need to tell them you appreciate them, because most of them are struggling. Like, I'm just saying, most of them are struggling. So it's also like being empathetic with property managers and understanding, like, people have a budget that they have to adhere to. And when people just do unnecessary things, I'm not saying this is all the time, but this is also, and I put this on us, like, we have different videos that we show, because sometimes we make assumptions as developers that people just know how to take care of their apartments, or people know how to take care of their properties, and they don't.
Okay, and from having landlording experience, and also just running a public space, I'm gonna tell an in-studio story. In studio, this was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. It's a brother in Toledo that I'm doing some work with, right? And he was like, yo, I just really want to see your studio. So he brought one of his producers that he works with and everything. We toured the studio, and he was like, yo, I want to use the bathroom. And then he walked out and he's like, yo, man, it's a $5 footlong in there. And I'm like, oh, who would do this? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Who would do this? Food being left out, just public spaces, just like you think it wouldn't happen. I remember, like, one time the rent was up, and then it was a group that came in that using one of my spaces, but they're like more in the green conservative energy, and they were composting.
Yeah.
They left the composting pile just in the middle of my space.
Right.
So it attracted everything. If you talk about cousins, that's what I call roaches, right? So all types of cousins, and I don't even have cousins. So it's like, oh, here we go.
Right. So imagine if you having a apartment community
times 20
with 50 people or 100 people living in there. You might have 3 or 4 of them. People composting, they ain't tell them they compost. I mean, I'm telling you, man, I got stories for days, man. I had somebody trying to do a hoop house in an apartment one time. I mean, they wasn't growing weed, but they was in there trying to grow
whatever.
grow vegetables or and other stuff in their apartment, and they was bringing in other stuff, dirt and all this. We was like, hold on, what is going on in this apartment?
Yeah.
And we went in there, man. They had stuff everywhere. We was like, hold on, you can't do this.
Here's the classic one with my short stint of my retirement from landlording, because usually the person is cool, right? And then they start dating somebody.
Oh yeah.
And then they got their spouse. And then the person they dating bring over their people.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go into your own place and they be looking at you like, who are you? And it's like, I own here. What are you talking about? Who am I? I am the person that pays taxes on this space.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And half the problems that happen at properties, man, is usually people that don't even live there. Usually about 70% of them.
I will definitely say from my landlording experience, it's definitely, and it's once removed, it's like, oh man, this was a real bad one. And I'm not even, like, you got probably a million of these stories. Tenant moves in, dad, that was like between stuff. Dad cool. Dad's girlfriend moves in. Dad's girlfriend brings in bed bugs. Right? So as mad as cousins are, I called my friend that was in the property management, and I was like, yo, I never dealt with nothing like this. What you gotta do? She was like, it is an emergency situation. You gotta da. I was like, word?
You can call the dogs. You can call the dogs. They got bed bug dogs. They'll go sniff them out. Go ahead.
And I dressed myself up like I was going on a spacewalk. Because I was like, all right, so what I gotta do? I bought like maybe like $45 worth of saran wrap to wrap up the mattresses and everything. And then this is in the who was it? The organ man didn't do no help because it was like, well, technically they can get some bed. They'll lay some eggs in the baseboards, and they could come back even 2 years later if the temperature's warm enough. I'm like, you're not helping me with this. At least lie to me.
That's because they ain't want to be liable when they tell you they kill them. They ain't want you to have to call them back and say, hey man, you didn't get these bugs. So it was all about liability at that point. Plausible deniability.
But yeah, it was like I say, it was a third remove. I definitely think that, and that's immediately what I think. And you can't tell a person, hey man, talk about people don't know how to live. It's like you can't get in a person's dating life, or like who the people that they date, kids move in, and then they kids move in, they boyfriends and girlfriends.
That's why lease agreements, man, have become just a whole hot topic in general. Because it's like, we got lease agreements, man. Them things look like you signing a loan agreement. I mean, because they got so many addendums to it. You would think that somebody wouldn't just put up a satellite on the front of your brand new building and just drill it into the side of the patio. But you know what they do?
You got that right.
So if you don't say nothing, so that means if you drive by a beautiful apartment community, you see 50,000 satellites. You like, man, what happened? That's because they did not put that addendum in their lease. And I'm just saying, like, this is stuff that I experience, often. And it's not even like it's a problem. So like what we do just as an organization, we don't make assumptions is what I'm saying. And so we try to sit down with our tenants, with our managers. And then we're also, we put together some videos about like how to clean your stove, how to vacuum, maintenance. If you need help with this, these are things that you can do. Just helping people to understand just basic upkeep of the apartments and our expectations. And then if they ever have questions, so like before you do anything that you don't see even on your list, before you even do it, just contact us. Because we had somebody else that wanted to do some growing. We said, hey, we can do some
outside. We can do some community gardens.
And that's exactly what we did. We put some community gardens outside because they was trying to balance pots in the window, messing with the screen, some big old pots. They falling out, and we got to keep replacing screens. It's like, man, we can help with that. And so those are the type of things. So I'm just saying, let's just not make assumptions, but also as tenants, it's making sure that we're empathetic to the property managers as well and understanding all the different things that they have to deal with on a daily basis. So it's being empathetic, one, to the tenants that are there, but also understanding that the person that you're working with, they don't usually want the problems that they have, and being empathetic to them too.
So you watch that first scene of Ace Ventura now, you used to laugh as a kid and you like, oh, you got way too many pets. That's immediately. Because that's the other thing. People will get some strange pets.
Oh man, we've had people tried to have a goat one time. Somebody was hiding like 6 dogs. It was like, I don't even know how you gonna have 6 dogs in a 600 square foot apartment. Like how it ain't even enough space for all y'all. But I mean,
I had a friend that had 2 chickens, and I was like, all right, roosters wake up at, and I was just like, God bless them.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, man, this is not even this is, I think what sometimes we have to understand is both people want the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you would hope that. Now, there are some slumlords. Don't get me wrong. Like, there are some slumlords that don't, no matter how many times you call them, they ain't gonna fix it. No matter how many times you reach out to them, they gonna move slow. They gonna walk it out as much as possible to not try to do nothing to try to get as much money as that property. So I don't want people to think that I'm being non-empathetic to those that just have horrible slumlords.
Those experiences.
Right. But then there are those individuals that really care. And if they knew what was going on, they would try to solve it. But like you say, now we have thousands of residents. It's a lot different for us now as far as like, okay, all right, let's try to make sure we balance that and making sure that those things and items, and people don't know what you don't say. That's the other thing. It's like, if you think drug activity going on in an apartment community, or you think domestic abuse is happening and taking place, the biggest thing for me is I want to know what's going on so we can try to figure out what we can do to get people help. Because one, people's safety is most important. Secondly, things being clean is so important, right? And if things aren't clean, but guess what? That takes everybody in the house, everybody in the community to understand that there's a goal we're trying to get to and a standard we all want to live at.
And let me be, hey, I'm off 12th Street, Davidson. So a lot of the slumlords, and I'm not taking up for nobody, because I think that it's a lot of people that live in poor conditions, but these people that live in poor conditions, because I've even had people approach me like, it's like, yo, the bathroom ain't even good. They like, look, I just need a place.
Yep.
So sometimes these slumlord conditions are people that aren't necessarily really trying to be in the landlord game, that are like, it starts off as like, all right, I'll give you a favor. And then it ends up becoming more chaotic over time. So like the water kind of finds its level, as tough as that is, as it was like a fire over here on the block, but it was like under the table.
Yeah, like, hey, man, I'll open it up. I'll let you stay in there. I ain't see nothing. Like, yeah, you do have landlords that are like that. They just have something they own. They ain't doing nothing with it. And somebody just looking for a place to just lay their head. And then it turned into a whole nother situation.
I think that happens a lot in spaces where poverty is very prevalent.
Yeah. I mean, you have a lot of places that are the last place of resort, right? We had a community that we bought. This one was more in Flint. And people didn't want to live there at first. It was housing of last resort, man. The reason why we bought it, because we was like, man, we can't. Let me tell you how bad it was. We bought this place. This lady paying her rent. Okay, listen to this. Paying her rent. So we went to do an inspection, because we go and just do our property inspections to look at units and see what type of condition they in. This lady had a hose coming from the second floor bathroom, like a water hose that she created, coming down to a bucket at her back door. I mean, not a bucket, into a trash can. And we was like, hold on, what was this? So when she emptied the tub, when she took a bath, she let it out because the drain was broke, and she would put it into the trash can, and then she was pouring it out the back door, her bath water. Like, it was that bad. And we was like, man, why? She was like, I'm just so happy I got a place to stay. If I just got to pour this water out and that's the only problem I got, she said, I've been homeless. I've been on the streets. I'm good. I can just pour that. We said, ma'am, no, we going to get this fixed for you. It took us to buy a $20 part. You see what I'm saying? Is in a $20 part to fix her tub. You know what I'm saying? But to think about that somebody let that woman live like that. And she was there for years.
And I think it's
that one hurt, man. Because I was like, and it wasn't even just that one. It was another one. Man didn't even have a working stove for like 2 years. Working stove and a barely working refrigerator. And he like, hey, I pay my rent. I mean, hey, we said, hey, man, no, you should have a working stove. He got a hot plate on top of his stove that he plugged in. And I'm just like, wow. Like, and he had no even expectation. That was the other thing. It's like no expectation for excellence, or just for the basic necessities of things that were even in their lease. And we looked at their lease and was like, hey, this is, and they were charging them for appliances. Let me tell you that. They was charging $50 for appliances.
I was going to say that is so common of what I see. Like if I had $1 for every time I seen a hot plate on top of a stove.
Yeah.
I have a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because this is just the challenges that I'm used to seeing in people in these conditions. So, people are just like, look, I just don't want to cause no trouble. And I want to kind of be in this space. So like, it's definitely not as easy as a direct, okay, this will happen and then that changes that type of fix to a lot of these challenges for the housing instability.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, but for whatever reason, man, you have people that let people and people just accept it. So that's also when you talked about renters' rights. It's like people knowing what their rights are, read their lease. And there's legal services. Legal services are everywhere. Like you got legal services in Eastern Michigan, legal services in Western Michigan. And you got these groups that read your lease agreement for you. And I tell people all the time, take advantage of the free services that are out there available. And you can also reach out to your local bar associations. They have attorneys that do pro bono work. So before you sign your lease, I understand you excited. Hey, reach out to one of those groups. Say, hey, read my lease. Take a look at it. Is there anything in here I should know? Because you will find out. And it might say, hey, if the appliance break, it's your responsibility. And you might have just moved in and the appliance just broke, or it broke before you even moved in. And there ain't nothing you can do about it. Take that opportunity to use those legal experts in your community to help you.
And that's another one of those things, even for right to counsel being in city of Detroit now, because that was a big champion for actually mayoral candidate Mary Sheffield about that right to counsel if you're facing eviction, because a lot of people in that space, if you ever go down to 36th District Court and want to definitely see some entertaining, what I would call it, civil court. You can just sit in that space and look at evictions and the back and forth, and you're definitely going to see it's just like outweighed because oftentimes that person paying rent isn't going to afford any type of representation.
No.
Whereas definitely the people that are in the position of ownership, their attorney is almost sitting there case after case after case after case after case.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, we have a couple attorneys on retainer, right? And so, they're seeing 10 or 15 cases a month, probably a piece between them, if not more, right? So it just depends on what's going on. So you're absolutely right. And that's what they're there for, right? To help to balance. But our goal is we want to keep people housed, right? So our goal is not to be out here trying to find ways to put people out. Is, hey, if you back on your rent, like we always tell our tenants, and we tell them this when they move in, if you lose your job, let us know. Don't wait and say, oh, I got another job interview, I'm trying to figure it out. Don't figure it out getting behind, figure it out with us trying to help you. So then we have our team, our supportive services team, our coaches to work with them and say, hey, if you don't have another job lined up, let's see what we can do to help you find another job. Like, I want to keep you housed. Like, the thing is that, but it gets back to that sharing information, having conversations with people and trying to figure out how you build that trust with them to say, hey, I'm here to help you. I want to see you thrive. I want to see you succeed. I don't want to see you fail. I don't want to see you get put out on the street. Like that's not our goal. And most landlords is not going to spend that time trying to figure out what we need to do to help keep people housed. But man, why not? Why would we not help you?
Well, I'd love everything that you shared. And we definitely went from that personal to talking about the organization to you really just breaking down a lot. And I love you adding that context because definitely in a clip, people will be like, oh, no, why would he say that? He's not saying that. He's speaking on behalf of the expertise from being in the industry because we're not usually getting an opportunity to get this type of information from a person in your space. So I want to thank you so much for just sitting down with Detroit is Different and sharing this game because I know that once this is shared, people are going to share this and pull out some information that'll definitely be very helpful for them in their journeys as they're making those decisions. So he definitely said, speak up, get the information, and take advantage of a lot of the assets that you can take advantage of, right? So that's real.
Yeah, because if you don't take advantage of it, man, like, hey, if you don't impact your environment, your environment's going to impact you. So, I mean, think of ways and ideas. Always think, like you say, Detroit is different. Like, I appreciate being here. But the reason why I'm even here as well, man, voices matter, right? And so I look at myself as a conduit, right? I'm not the top of anything, man. I'm not the end goal. I look at myself as a conduit for resource and information to flow through me to make sure that we're trying to get information out and trying to, get the stuff that I'm getting either from these different tables that I sit at and trying to make sure that information is getting disseminated. Be an information sharer, not an information hoarder. It's not about being a gatekeeper, man. It's about being a gate opener, right? And creating more tables. Like the thing is that like we sitting at this table today, we having this wonderful conversation. You can always add on another table. You know what I'm saying? To continue the conversation. It's like, don't get worried about what we was talking about a little bit earlier before we got on the podcast about what table you're not at. Is understanding the tables and the access to people that you have and making sure that you're using your voice and clarifying your vision, clarifying what you want to say, and then making sure that people are carrying that message for you into those spaces. So, people don't give up, and they can reach out to us. We got so much other stuff going on, movies under the stars this summer.
And that's what I was...
All that other stuff we got,
So
yeah.
That you drive right into the next question.
Yeah.
What do you see future for Communities First in Detroit? You did a forum where you were like, yo, come to this. And I was like, yeah, I come. I actually bought my ticket and all of that.
Yeah.
That was very interesting, just getting that lens of philanthropy and people speaking on philanthropy and how they look at giving and pouring into the city, where I'm like, okay, this is definitely one of those rooms that I wouldn't usually expect to be in. So I appreciate you for the invite.
Yeah.
I look forward to being at more of the programming that you all will deliver. But
that was the point. And that was the point of it, Kari. That's the reason why we put it on Community Candor Live, is to open up spaces so people can hear from other executives, CEOs of major corporations and companies to come down and sit with the community. Because what happens is most of these people are picking and choosing who sit in these spaces, who sit in these rooms, right? And people don't have that opportunity to come sit down and really listen to the heart of a leader and kind of see how information is being or what resources are being pushed, because people get that information and they just keep it, right? And so community candor is exactly what it is. It's community and it's candor. That means it's real conversations that's happening. It's real questions being asked. And that gives people the ability to take that information and take it out and share with their networks and their communities. So I'm not trying to set up bringing in these CEOs to be sitting down talking to other CEOs of companies. I'm bringing in, top, people to come and sit down and talk to the community and have that real conversation. So just like you say, you was getting information that you didn't know. I mean, they telling you the who, the what, the why. You're not getting that information because most people ain't gonna spend that time to tell you. But you'd be surprised at how many people here in the city of Detroit and the CEOs that I'm having this conversation with that's committed for our shows to come. I mean, not for our shows, but for our forums to be coming up that are excited to come and kind of share their heart with the community, to let them know, like, hey, we're trying to figure out the ways that we can express this information differently to the community in a different way. Plus, so that's our Community Candor Live. We have we just had our African American film series here at the Charles Wright. We almost packed that out. We've had people ask us about doing our film series here in Detroit because we've had people traveling to Flint for the last 10 years. So we did that. It was very successful. So we appreciated Ford Motor Company and also working with the Charles Wright to get that done. We've been doing our movies under the stars here in the city of Detroit the last 6-7 years. So we'll be doing that again this year at Marygrove College, the historic Fort Wayne, and then we're going to be doing something at the Joe Louis Greenway.
Okay.
So, and the Movies Under Stars is just a free outdoor movie event. We bring in community resources as well to connect people in some of these resources that we were talking about earlier. So it's more than a movie, but it's a place to really connect community, build culture, build community, and give people resource so they can take that out to the communities in their neighborhoods. And we give away popcorn, candy, ice cream, pizza, nothing. We don't charge. Most of our events, they're very minimal. They're recommended, either a recommended donation or they're free, because we are not about creating barriers at Communities First. We are about removing barriers, because I have been a person that have walked up to a lot of barriers. I still walk to barriers, and it ain't my goal to create them for other people.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So with that being said, classic Detroit is different questions now. Your very first car, year, make, and model, year you got it.
1963 and a half Ford Galaxy 500.
Okay.
I got it when I was 15. It was my first car. I worked the whole 2 summers to buy it.
Okay.
So, yeah, and I bought that car, and, man, you got me going back. 1998?
Okay.
Yeah, 98. I bought this 1963 Ford Galaxy.
I don't even know what a Ford Galaxy is.
Yeah, it was actually it was a guy that owned it in the country, and I bought it. It was a classic 2-door, beautiful. It was actually in the Kennedy Parade. In 1963 Kennedy Parade, it was actually a patrol car.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was a cool car. The guy let me work it off as I had my job, and I kept bringing him payments every month until I paid that car off.
Okay. All right. Where's the first place you went when you got it?
School.
Hilarious.
You know how that is, man. You get the car. I was trying to I was pulling up the football practice. So I was a freshman on varsity, so I wasn't even supposed to be driving.
Okay, yeah. It was like, look at him.
Yeah, right.
Look at him.
Yep, that was the first place I went.
All right, I didn't even ask what school in Flint because that's the other thing. Flint is like,
it's very similar to y'all battles here.
Yeah, East Side, West Side,
right?
But,
Flint Northern, Big Red, yeah,
Flint Northern.
Flint
Okay,
Northern.
all right,
Yeah.
all right. Well, I know all my Flint people will be like, oh, well, half gonna be like, yeah.
Yeah, someone would be like, you ain't go to North, you ain't go to Central, all this other stuff. But, Big Red.
All right. Next question. You're the DJ at the end of the fireworks. Woodward and Jefferson. You get to play 2 songs. What songs you playing?
Ooh. 2, man, you hit me with something there. I feel like I gotta pay last 2 songs. Feel like I gotta do a Stevie Wonder.
Okay.
Maybe I'll do a Ribbon in the Sky.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And then maybe end something off with man, I feel like I gotta end the night off with just something hype. Ooh. I mean, it seemed like that one song is the one. I don't know if I do Eminem or if I do if I do a hip hop or if I would do Respect by Aretha Franklin.
Okay. Well, I'm with it. Lady Reed will never
You know what I'm saying?
anything turn down my way.
Yeah.
Okay. So, last question. Always
I'm an old school guy, man. I love old school music.
I see.
So when you ask me that, man, I just start going back. Man, I think about Sam Cooke.
Okay.
That's my era, man.
All right. Somebody that watches this because we have some what do they say, seasoned watchers here.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna be like,
I'm a young man, old soul, man. That's
hilarious.
Most of my friends about 60 years old, man, and older. So it's kind of
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And last question. This is the not from Detroiter question.
Okay.
A strange one though.
Okay.
An alien comes down, spaceship comes by to you and's like, hey, I want to go to the most Detroit place we can go. Where are you and ET hanging out at?
Ooh, where are we hanging out? The most Detroit place.
Mm-hmm.
Man. That's a good question. Because a few places come to my mind.
Okay.
I mean, man, I think about old school, man. I think about like Floods.
Oh, man.
Starters.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like places I used to hang out at, you know, back when it was
original starters.
Yeah, the original starters,
Okay.
back. I mean, that was that for me, man, was kind of the thing for me, man. We used to come from Flint, man, and you used to go hang out at starters even when I was young and wasn't even supposed to be there. So
hilarious.
Yeah. So I mean, that's where we used to roll.
All right. So you, the alien.
Yeah.
With all of those West Siders.
Yeah.
E.T. eating some chicken wings.
I was just about to say that. Yeah. Yep.
Some chicken wings or a grilled chicken salad.
Yeah.
Shout out to starters.
Yeah.
I'm with it.
Yeah.
So with that being said, that is a Detroit is different.
All right. Thanks a lot, man, for having me. I appreciate you and all the work that you're doing here. I'm glad we've been building a relationship, man, over time here and always interested. And I always love our banter back and forth. Like, because most people can't have good conversations, even like in topics that we don't agree on. And like, you already know this, man. Most people can't have a conversation where you disagree. Me and you, we just lean into it like, nah, man, I don't agree with you on that.
Yeah.
It'd be like, cool, keep it moving. Most people be like, my feelings hurt. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, so man, I appreciate your authenticity, man. And
Thank you.
And what you're doing. And I'm just blessed, man, to know you. And I wish you nothing but blessings, man, and nothing but success, man, on with your voice, man, and your brand and what you guys are doing. And I just ask people that I know, if y'all watching this, make sure y'all send them some love. He ain't asked me to do this, but send them some love.
Man.
Support them, support their work and what they're trying to do here, because he's really authentic and really care about the work that he does.
Well, that's definitely humbling. As I say, same thing. People know I got a big mouth, a lot of opinions, but it gets layered from a lot of these discussions. So it's these connections. And then if I, get better at opening up different discussions.
But you
and
open
then
though, man. But the thing is, you open for discussion. Most people are just closed and just got their mind made up. You like, hey, challenge me.
Yeah.
What's up? What we got? Let's go. Most people ain't willing to do that. So, we good there. Yeah.
I love it. With that being said, Detroit is different. Peace.
Detroit. Detroit.